Good morning, Sheila. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Wayne. I'm really well today. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
And welcome to everyone to 27 Minutes with Sheila and Wayne, where we explore the fascinating world of verbs and their impact on our daily lives. Join us each week as we delve into the different ways verbs shape our language and influence our activities, as we attempt to make a positive difference in our world, one verb at a time. And Sheila, I understand we have a trivia question today.
Well, I hope you have a trivia question because I do not have a trivia question today.
I do. And
Good.
the trivia question I have, which we will give the question now, and
Yes.
as always, at the end of the show, we will give the answer. Where is the term meander derived from?
Okay.
And
Thank you.
what would be
Yeah.
our verb today?
Well, by coincidence, our verb today is to meander.
Oh,
How
and
cool is that?
how did we get that verb? God, such a
Well, from our
cool
friend
verb.
Schultz, your friend Schultz. Thank you, Schultz.
Thank you, Schultz. All right. Yes, and everyone else, Schultz has given us. He has given
Yes,
us
he
four
has.
verbs.
Yeah.
We've done. This is number 3. And you can give us a verb as well. Sheila, how can they find you to give you a verb?
Thank you for asking. Zeke and Sheila at yahoo.com is my email address.
And my email address is wayne@mindsyncing.com. That's MINDSYNCING.com. So just meander right over there to with
Yes.
our emails and shoot us some feedback. And hopefully there's some verbs in there.
Recommendations. Yes,
Yes.
please do.
Yes. And do you have any definitions for the verb meander?
I have 2 definitions. It's really
Oh.
just the same definition.
Okay.
It's to follow a winding course, also known as let my dog take me for a walk. But the second definition, if you will, is to wander aimlessly on a winding roundabout course without urgent destination.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes. And I have 3. The last one is exactly what you said. My last one is what you said last, so I won't go there. But
Okay.
the 2 that I have, they're slightly different.
Mhm.
To walk slowly without any clear direction,
Mhm.
or to follow a route that is not straight or direct.
Okay.
And yes, so meander. And now I know how I thought, or what I thought about the verb meander as I began to look it up. What was on your mind?
Wayne, I have a new favorite verb. And
Really?
it is meander.
Wow.
I love this word.
I can't wait to hear why it's your favorite.
Okay. All right.
All right. I found it to be a challenge.
Really?
To be honest with you, I found it to be a challenge because I started the research and I was going to meander, and I had all these things going through my head. Oh, meander, because I meander a lot, and and I kept coming up on. I got hits on the internet of, hey, free motion quilting, meandering while, and then there was another term for the same thing. It says free motion meandering in quilting. And then I got all of these hits on how rivers meander.
Yeah, oh yeah, lots of rivers.
Right? And how that happens, how it's formed, it's because it's erosion and it's water and it's ever changing and dynamic. And I'm thinking, yeah, but where's the one about people? It was tough for me. It was tough. So anyway, why was this so exciting to you? Please tell us.
Well, first of all, I'm going to quote my neighbor Brian, who says, you don't take your dog for a walk. You take your dog's nose for a walk. And I know that to be true because there are 2 kinds of walks I go on with my dog, Zeke. The business walk where we've got things to do. We have to be home by a certain time and it's not a time to linger. It's a time to do business. And the second one is a sniffing walk. Where he gets to choose where we go and when we go. And it meanders like a long and winding river. But there are rules, nevertheless. And those are you have to be safe. You have to always be on your leash.
Okay.
You have to respect other people's property. So you don't pee on buildings as we walk by.
All right.
And the walk is not to lunge and grab and eat napkins, which I live in a semi-urban area, and there are, as it turns out, lots of those. However, you can find empty water bottles and bring those home in exchange for a big treat. So,
Okay.
so Nicole Vanderboom talked about the joy of the meandering walk in September 2022.
Uh-huh.
And it is my favorite time of day to do that with Zeke. And I'm going to go in more detail about meandering walks at another moment, but let's hear what your first thought was. I
Okay.
mean, not your first thought, you've given that, but your first research.
Well, it, yes, at time when I was working regularly, if
Mhm.
you will, I always had, and we talked about this when we used the verb think many episodes ago. I always wrote in think time on my calendar. So
Okay.
I would have think time.
Ah, yeah.
So 15 minutes a day, I would go out and just get my head clear, think. So at times I do like to just think, whether it's when I go for a walk, because I walk the neighborhood exercising like most people do, or jog, but I don't jog, I walk,
Mhm.
or taking a few minutes at work, as I said, or just sitting still by myself.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
like to think. And even though I am meandering in my thoughts,
Mhm.
I am also another verb that we use. I'm also inquiring. So,
Mm.
um, because during that discussion, I think I talked about me being using the Socratic method when teaching, and I also use the Socratic method to myself. So as I'm sitting there thinking, sitting still, just meandering, I start asking myself questions or inquiring, and I do that to solve problems, to dive deeper, to better understand, and to set priorities. And I found the verb fun, but it's not my new favorite verb like you.
Mhm.
But I did find it to be fun. And again, I did find it as a challenge. I found two articles as well that I thought were kind of interesting.
Mhm.
One's from Forbes, and it's written by Alison Escalante, and another one is from the Farnham Street website. And it's not associated or attached to any particular writer or groups of writers. It's just something that's an article that was written there. So I kind of use that because it has some good information there as well, or at least some interesting information. However, I thought the first one was much more filled with wow, things that I would say, wow, didn't know that. Wow, didn't know
Love
that.
wow things. Good.
Yes. So it was kind of cool. But I am interested into hearing you and tell us about your new favorite verb, would you?
Well, I'm in a season of life with my mom, who is 95, where we have what I call meandering conversations.
Ah,
And these are, you can start out with a question, but basically it follows no specific path. It can include recent events, touches on upcoming calendar events. It's always good when there's a story or a memory thrown in there.
hmm.
So the point is not to rush, but to learn more about each other. And sometimes I even videotape it because I want other members of the family to have this. Because she'll just pop out with a story about, when she was a teenager living in Korea before the Korean conflict. These are priceless. And so I love the opportunity to just spend time talking about everything and enjoying each other's company. And so I don't know that there's anyone else in my life that I enjoy that with so much. And I have to say, a meandering conversation can drive other members of my family crazy. What's the point? How long are we going to sit here doing this? I'm not going to name names.
Okay.
But with my mom, I love meandering conversations.
Excellent. Wow. Very cool.
Yes.
Yes. And looking at the Forbes article
Yes.
written by Alison Escalante, um, it's it's titled "The New Science: Why Our Brains Spend 50% of the Time Mind Wandering."
I found that same statistic. So I look forward to touching base with you after you finish
Okay,
on
excellent.
that.
All right. Well, hopefully, I'm not stealing your thunder and quoting from the article, the same article.
Wouldn't that be great?
I okay. Well, anyway, Allison says that she's letting our minds wander. She says, "Is letting our minds wander good for us or not?" And I thought, okay, I've never heard that question before.
Good.
I've just wondered, and I didn't know if it was good or not.
Just did it.
And so I said, let me, and as I said, here's one of those aha moments reading the article.
Mhm.
She says, new research uses EEG, the electrocardiogram,
Mhm.
to trace brainwave patterns. And she says, now cognitive scientists are currently in a debate about whether mind wandering is good for us or not. She says, until recently, the evidence has suggested that mind wandering is actually bad for us
Okay.
and makes us unhappy. And I thought, I don't think I've ever been unhappy while mind wandering.
Mhm.
So I continued to read. She says, yet mind wandering is such a natural part of how our brains work that our thoughts wander about half of the time.
Mhm.
So it defies logic to think that our brains would actually be spending that much energy on something bad for us. And I thought, okay. So I think she's leaning towards it's good, but let me find out. She says now new research led by UC Berkeley has found a way to actually track our thoughts and see whether they are focused or wandering. And based
Mm.
on their findings, the researchers concluded that mind wandering is an important cognitive process. She says, in other words, it is good for us and can
Well,
lead us
there
to,
you go.
and I was so relieved.
What year was do you happen to know off your top of your head what year that research was done?
The article was written in 2021.
Okay. All right.
So it's between, so it's probably somewhere close to 2021. So like 2019,
Okay.
2018, somewhere
Okay.
around there,
Yeah.
probably.
Great.
I don't know. I didn't look at that, but
No, no, that's
that
good.
would
Interesting.
have been my thought. And so she says, there's a debate about mind wandering. On the, she says, on the depressing side of the debate, Matt Killingsworth tracks your track your happiness project concluded that mind wandering makes us unhappy. He says his data show that our minds wander 47% of the time,
Mhm.
but they also almost always wander to a negative thought and get stuck in a rumination.
Interesting.
And I said, I wonder if there's any examples. And then he says, or she says, for example, I go,
Oh, good.
yay!
Yay.
His data showed that commuters are actually happier if they concentrate on being stuck in traffic than if they let their
What?
minds wander.
I question that.
Yeah, me too. I was like, I don't know about that. And she says this surprised creatives and innovatives who use mind wandering to solve difficult problems or generate new ideas. Could there be more to the story? And she says, yes, there's a guy by the name of Zachary Irvine. He thinks so. And he
Okay.
argues that mind wandering works differently than we think.
Hmm.
An assistant professor at University of Virginia, Irving is a philosopher of cognitive science, and he proposes that mind wandering should be understood as unguided attention.
Hmm.
Okay, unguided attention. There you are, back to that meandering kind of thing. Right?
Right.
Yes. And I said, okay, so what's the big takeaway here? She says in one of his papers, Irving explains the difference between guided attention, unguided attention, and rumination. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So I don't want to monopolize the words here.
No, but I'd love to add on to what you're talking about here
Okay.
because I did find the Matt Killingsworth research in the Harvard Gazette, which was
Ah,
2010. And so that fits right along with how they've learned even more since then. And he also came up with that 47% of waking hours are spent thinking about what isn't going on.
okay.
So, in other words, thinking about something other than what you're doing. Also, he had used the Track Your Happiness app, which you referenced, and I looked it up and it still exists as a free app. If you are interested in learning more about your own happiness factor, and it tells you, it'll just randomly say, what are you thinking about right now? And how happy are you on that? And so you can kind of find out what you like about mind wandering or where you find it being a positive or negative experience. So then I came
Yes.
up with, not using the app, I came up with my own list of good mind meandering and bad mind meandering.
Okay.
And I even like meandering. I even like the saying of that word. So, good meandering, people watching at the airport or somewhere, just sitting in a tourist area maybe and just watching people.
Okay.
Um, uh, having no goals, bad mind meandering. Charting your own path for personal growth and flexibility, good meandering. Meandering speeches, I'm gagging myself if you can't tell. I hate a meandering speech, bad meandering. Daydreaming, good meandering. Creative, ruminating, going over old experiences or conversations, bad meandering.
Ooh.
Obsessive, yeah. Problem solving, good meandering. Autopilot when you're driving, bad meandering. So those were just a few of them. Oh, stock market, kind of neutral because it's always going to be meandering. So,
Okay.
okay.
All
So
right.
anyway, I also found calm.com is an app or a web page that talks about how to calm your mind if you're stuck in some of that bad meandering moment.
Mm-hmm.
And they say that their conclusion about mind meandering is that it's not necessarily about happiness, especially if you're thinking about the past or problems that might happen. It can be useful as a tool if you're sitting in a theater and you're thinking about all the things that happen to identify what you would do in an emergency, find the fire exit, stuff, etc. But they say that philosophical and religious traditions teach that happiness is to be found by living in the moment, the here and now.
Mm.
And so calms that one of their little lines is meander is if you calm your mind, you change your life. I think I've said that already, but essentially how to turn off the bad meandering by being in the present moment. So that I liked.
Excellent. Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Yes. That's what makes these, to me, our podcast so fun for me,
Uh-huh.
is we learn so much.
I know.
Just
Me
man, it's
too.
almost like we're back in school, but we're having fun.
Oh, yeah, the fun start, leaving the bad stuff behind.
Yeah, and the
Bad
teacher
stuff.
never calls on us, so there you go.
Call on me, call on me.
Oh yeah,
And she never does. Okay.
absolutely. Okay, so going back to what Irving was talking about with the guided attention, the unguided attention, and rumination,
Mhm.
he says that roughly speaking, someone's attention is guided if she would feel pulled back where she was distracted from her current focus. And I thought, oh, okay. She says, and going back to the author of this article, Allison,
Mhm.
she
Mhm.
says, in contrast, when our thoughts wander, they meander from one topic to another, so they are unguided.
Mhm.
And mind wandering may appear to be purposeless, but our thoughts have a surprising way of wandering to our goals, which you said
Mm.
is good good meandering
Good
to
meandering.
have goals, bad meandering to not have goals.
Although let's we can talk more about that.
Okay. And she says, so mind wandering may appear to be purposeless, but our thoughts have a surprising way of wandering to our goals. Irving calls this the puzzle of the purposeful wanderer.
Ooh.
I'd say that fast 3 times. He writes that my solution to the puzzle is this: mind wandering is purposeless if in one way. It is unguided but purposeful in another if it is frequently caused and uses this to be motivated by our goals. That's kind of confusing to me, but Irving believes this is quite different from rumination, during which we are
Ah,
obviously focused on our distress.
right.
Going back to that sitting in traffic to commuters, I'm thinking, okay,
Mm,
maybe that's a stretch for
uh,
me.
yeah.
I gotta read more. He suggests that rumination is not mind wandering at all, but a type of guided attention because the mind resists being distracted from it.
Kind of obsessive.
Yes,
Okay. All
exactly.
right.
Yeah, see, that's why you're here. And Xavier's right. You you make us sound so good.
Xavier said that about a year and a half ago.
He
He may
says it.
not feel that same way anymore.
Well, I should call him and ask him. Yeah. Anyway, so there we go. That's one of those things that I said, wow, I kind of really learned something. Allison talks about mind wandering is important. She said the study's authors, going back to the UC Berkeley study,
Mhm.
she says the study authors were excited for the first time we have neurophysical
Love this.
logical evidence that distinguishes different patterns in internal thought, allowing us to understand that the varieties of thought central to human cognition, said study senior author Robert Knight, who's a UC Berkeley professor of psychology and neuroscience, in the press release. But the findings are particularly exciting for those who daydreamed their way through school. That's what I did. Babies and young children's minds seem to wander constantly, and so we wondered why functions that might serve. And I thought, okay. And so she goes on to say that they developed a psychological or psychology scholar who was also called a co-author of the study in the press release. Our paper suggests that mind wandering is a much more positive feature of cognition,
Mhm.
as a quirk, and explains something we all experience. And
Mhm.
I thought, of course we do. Now, I put this in red because I wanted it to go out there. She says, if mind wandering is a positive feature of cognition, what is it doing for us? Well, for one thing, the alpha waves that show up where our minds are wandering mean we are relaxing. And our
Mm.
brains cannot maintain focus and productivity without regular periods of relaxing.
Okay.
So remember a couple episodes ago, we talked about exercising the brain.
Yes.
This is saying as you're exercising the brain, you want those alpha waves to hit because that's relaxing the brain so the brain doesn't get tired and you start to wander and go off on meander in a different way. Kind of brings you back. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool how these things come together. It really is. I'm thinking, anyway, um, I'm looking at the clock. It's 22:12.
Okay.
So a little time, but go ahead. I want you to really get out the things that you want us to sit to hear, because again, this is your new favorite verb. What are we
It is
talking
my
about?
new favorite verb. So I did. I'm not going to talk a lot about meandering in poetry, where wander and wonder merge. And I brought that up actually because you are a poetry fan, and you have often talked about how you think someone should be reading one of the three books people should always be reading is poetry.
Yes.
So, but just know that that's out there. And if we have time, we can talk more about it. But I mostly wanted to talk about a book or a blog by Asia Lene at asialene.com on why you should go on long meandering walks. And I talked about walking with the dog. This one is really the benefit for you, not so much the dog,
Okay.
or the benefit for me. First of all, it's a slower pace, which gives you a chance to see the colors and the
Mm-hmm.
people, to feel the breeze or the mist, to hear the rain on the pavement or the birds chirping or the fire engine going by, which actually you can hear without concentrating on it. To see things you've never noticed. Yesterday on our meander, I saw a squirrel tugging a little inflatable dog toy, or excuse me, a rubber dog toy through this water. I'm not sure where he was going with it or what his plan was, but I wouldn't have noticed it if it wasn't a meandering walk. It's like a little kid. I remember going with my nephew when he was little. You have to stop for every butterfly. You have to jump in every puddle
Mm.
and really experience the walk is what I'm trying to say with all of your senses.
Yes. Yes.
Research suggests that walking is the new running. I love it when they say something silly like that. Orange is the new black. Um, you improve your immune system. You improve your metabolism. You burn calories. Allegedly lose weight. I say allegedly because it hasn't worked that way for me. You can lower your blood pressure. Those really sound like more brisk walk side effects, but nevertheless, meandering is good. It helps you in your well, no, what I was going to say is that my focus for so much of my life has been, is this a productive activity? How productive was I today? What did I accomplish today? But
Mm.
sometimes the point isn't about productivity or accomplishments. It's about being in the moment. And I
Yes.
liked that about the word inquire too, because there was something about remembering to be in the moment. So
Okay.
inquiring was our last week's word. So anyway, stand in the woods, isolate, and listen to the different sounds you hear, and remember that it's healthy and you're doing it. It is its own productivity. So
Yes.
there we
Yes.
go.
Okay. Going to the and I'm looking at the clock. It's
Oh,
25, so I'm gonna
okay.
cut this one real short.
Okay.
Looking at the Farnham Street article
Yes.
that I read, they talked about no skill is more valuable or harder to come by than the ability to critically think through problems. And so
Hmm.
they said, this is the skill that you've never been taught, how to think better. And I
Oh.
thought, oh, okay. And looking very quickly, thinking better than others means that you'll have more free time and fewer problems. And if you can't think well, you'll spend a lot of time fixing avoidable mistakes. And and they said this, and I have lived this. It says if you stop thinking when most people stop thinking, you'll come to the same conclusions most people come to. I remember that I was in a group once, and we were sent to. It was a large exercise. We had a large room with all of us, and then we went into breakout groups, and they gave us 25 minutes to solve this one problem. And after about 11 minutes, we got knocks on our door saying, hey, everybody else was back there except us, come
Mm.
back.
Oh.
Everyone else had stopped thinking at that same time, and they came up with what the obvious question or obvious solution should be. But I told the person who was knocking on our door, no, tell them we're not ready. We have 10 more minutes. And so we're still thinking. And when we finally came to our conclusion, we had about a minute left. And I said, okay, is everybody ready? And we went through it one more time. They said, yep, we're ready. So we went back. Everybody was giving us all these scowls and bad looks. We're
Right.
wasting their time. And because it was so obvious what the answer was.
Oh.
And we were the only ones who had the correct solution.
Yes.
And I thought, wow. So that takes me back to your mom and you talking, meandering
Hmm.
conversation. And
Hmm.
I like what you said, not to rush, because here's a quote from Leslie Lampert. She says, if you're thinking without writing, you only think you're thinking. She says that we need to write as we're thinking because it slows us down, slows your mind down.
Right.
And like you so eloquently articulated, not to rush. And
Yeah.
with that, I will leave it with you, my friend.
Well, thank you, Wayne. That's a lovely way to end this show. And thank you, Schultz, for my new favorite word. I'm going to be meandering around a lot. People are going to say, what is wrong with her? She's so unproductive. But I'll be happy, nevertheless. Thank you, anyone who's listening to us, everyone who's listening to us. We appreciate your time. And thank you, Wayne.
And thank you, Sheila. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye. See
Bye
you
bye.
next week.